Hello, this is Kathy Ferrel bringing you the April 2017 project of the month, and this month we will be making this elegant clutch. At a glance, the materials include your April 2017 free design, and the design this month comes from the Floriani Family Lace Collection. And I wanted to make sure to show you all of the beautiful designs that are part of this collection. There are 7 pages of these elegant designs. And so this is the first page, the second page here, and I have highlighted with the square right here the design that you're being given this month that we're going to work on the project with. This is another page of the designs, and continuing through. This is an exquisite collection. If you've ever seen a Walter Floriani event, he talks about it right here. This is Walter at an event actually showing this family lace that he created. It's a beautiful collection, and I'm very excited and honored to be working on the project this month and being able to incorporate one of these beautiful designs into the project. Make sure that you download your April 2017 free designs because it also includes the handout for this month that gives you the instructions on how to do the project. I'm going to right now also click on a video right here that I made, and I'm going to go ahead and open that up. I made that little video when I finished the project and posted it up onto my Instagram account and my Facebook. So if you've already seen it, I apologize. But I thought it was really, I wanted you to be able to see a 3D effect of what this project is. I was really happy with the results. So the objectives for this month are in our software. You want to make sure that you have the latest update. We're going to set preferences in the software specifically for format and in the view. We're going to work with the backdrop. We're going to duplicate and resize a design. We're going to convert artwork to embroidery. We're then going to use the reshape a design tool. We're going to actually take a design element and reshape it. And then this is something new, but we're going to use the redwork tool that's a part of the software. So quite a bit in the software this month. As far as materials, in your handout, you'll see that I try to make a comprehensive list of the materials that you're going to need. There's basically minimal sewing in here, but as far as Floriani products go, Dreamweave Ultra, which is a staple when you're working on these projects. The stabilizer we're using this month is Floriani Perfect Stick Stabilizer. The thread that you choose, I recommend to complement your fabric. And I just did a shade off of kind of a tonal color for the fabric that I chose. We're going to use Embroidery Perfection Tape. You will need Swarovski Hot Fix Crystal embellishments. And the ones that specifically I added to my project they're from us. They're special embellishments, and they are pearls and little square crystals. These are available through your Floriani dealers. Your dealers can order these from RNK Distributing. RNK Distributing is a distributor of Swarovski crystals, and so if you're looking for these, then have your dealer contact RNK so that they can order these in for you. Floriani chrome needles, of course, the 7511 embroidery needle. a Floriani cordless hot fix crystal tool, and you'll see this later. I have a picture of it. I love this tool. If you've ever worked with these hot fix crystals before and tried to put them on, if you have a hot fix, if you have a heat element to melt the glue on the back of those designs that plugs in, what you'll find is that cord has a tendency to kind of get in the way, and those little crystals, when you're working with them and they move all over the place, they kind of jump around. So I love this cordless tool. You'll need Floriani Deco Magic. I love this particular product. That's what I used in my bag to give it its shape. You can use Stitch and Shape if you don't have access to the Deco Magic. But once again, if your dealer doesn't have Deco Magic in the store, they can order this for you. And I really would encourage you to have them order it. If you're going to take the time to make this project, use these products. The results are amazing. And I've made several of these clutches, and I've seen a lot of these clutches made. A lot of the dealers will have them in their stores, and you will get much better results using the Deco Magic. Floriani Heat and Stay Light Fusible Fleece. I love this product. The fusible on it adheres to your fabric so wonderfully. It's not going to add bulk, but it really enhances the shape of your bag. A Floriani pressing cloth, the Floriani template tearaway, a Floriani heat craft tool, and because we're going to make 3D flowers. And then you'll need a specialty product, and it's called RNK Sew Shrink Fabric. This is a new name for it. It's very similar, and so I also put in here you could substitute Jenny Haskins Crinkle Magic is what it's called, or we used to have a Floriani Texture Magic, and so if you had bought some of that and you have it, you can use that. But what it is it's a specialty material, and when you steam this material, it actually shrinks in there, and that's what's going to give our flowers that textural shape. So you will need to have something like that. Other items this month, I used a pattern, and I would really urge you to, if you want to make the clutch, to invest in the pattern, and it's by Pink Sand Beach Designs, and you can find this in a lot of the dealer stores, or you can order it directly from the website. It will give you additional materials that are specific to this project, and so get that pattern and read through it, because for instance you need glue to put the hardware on. So I didn't put that in the instructions. Just make sure that you read that and get it. The fabric that I used was silk du peony. I would recommend a white or an off-white, but this is your project, and of course you can make it with any color that you would like. I really think that the silk du peony lends elegance to this particular project. And then you'll need a fat quarter of fabric for the lining. I didn't use silk du peony for the lining, so just for that. Nylon organza, that's for the flowers. As you go and look for organza, they have polyester organza and nylon organza. What I found, the difference between the two is polyester organza, number one, when you're using the heat tool, it'll leave more brown on the edges from that heat tool, and also it's not as soft. It doesn't have the same hand. I think when you get into the nylon organza, you'll find that it's softer and it works better with that heat tool, but you certainly can use either one. And then your miscellaneous items in there, and then of course fabric preparation, just make sure that you're fusing Dreamweave Ultra to those fabrics. All right, let's go ahead and get started with the software lesson.
I've already started my software. I have a new blank document open. We're going to go under our Tools menu, and let me just real quickly, under the Help and About, make sure that you have done your most recent update. So I am on build 3230, so you need to at least be on build 3230 for the tools that we're going to look at right now. Under my Tools menu, I'm going to come all the way down to Preferences. And in that build 3230, we have some really nice features that were added to the software. The first one I'm going to talk about, I absolutely love. And when I now save a design, instead of going File Save and then doing a File Save As, in my software, under my formats right here, I'm going to, under Default Save Format, under this drop down, I'm going to tell the software what my preferred format is, whether it's a PES file, a VIP file, a VP3, whatever brand of machine that I'm embroidering on. I'm going to select that from this first screen. Next, I'm going to check the box right here for autosave WAF. When I save my design now, file save, it automatically saves my design in that WAF format. So I no longer have to consciously think about, did I save my design as a WAF file? The next one we're going to look at is under the View tab. So when you come over to your View tab, I have deselected this Show Crosshair in Input Mode, and I turn that off because the crosshair is really nice and big, but I find it to be a little bit visually distracting. So for this lesson, make sure that you have that box unchecked. We want the box for Show Tooltip in Input Mode, for Show Backdrop Below Grid, and for Show Selection Controls. And just a real quick explanation. We're going to work with the backdrop. If you are working with the grid on, then the backdrop will be displayed under the grid. So you're going to still see your preferred grid settings, and it'll be on top of the backdrop. This is nice. And then the last one is the Show Selection Controls. You want to make sure that you have that box checked, because as we go through and we work on this, we're going to use some of those selection controls for this lesson. I'm going to go ahead and say OK. We're going to come over and we're going to use the backdrop tool. So when I click on that backdrop, it opens up my Load Backdrop dialog box. We need to navigate, and so I'm going to walk through this in the video for you. You're going to, under this PC, we're going to start with our C drive, and it's in that folder where your handout is. Open your C drive, find Floriani, open Floriani. When you find that, it'll have designs. Open that and find the folder that says Free FTCU Projects. Double click on that. Double click on April. We're working with April of 2017. When you open up April of 2017, you're going to open the folder that says Pattern and select this clutch pattern and bring that in. Now, this is the pattern that comes with the bag that you purchase, and I went ahead and scanned it in. If you're working with a different pattern, you could do the same process. Scan in the pattern, bring it into the software as a backdrop. Once you have your pattern in, we want to check the size, because the whole purpose of having the pattern in the software is that we're going to use this for placement of our embroidery designs. We've done this before in the software. We're going to right click on that backdrop and we're going to define the scale. You need to go to your pattern and you need to size it. I've already done this, and the top of the bag measures 6.5 inches. So I'm going to left click right here on the edge of the bag. I'm holding my mouse down. I'm dragging over to the right hand side of the bag till I get to that edge. I'm going to let go and release it. Look at there, 6.5 inches. If that came up as anything else, then I would want to change that, and I would make it 6.5 inches. So I was pretty lucky. I did a good job of scanning that image in. The next thing we're going to do is we're just going to take that image and we're going to change the transparency of it. And that's done with the image selected under the Properties box. You're going to drag that slider and click on Apply. Next, we're going to bring in our free design. On my library panel, I'm going to open up my free FTCU projects. I'm going to open April and April of 2017. There are 3 folders: Flowers, Pattern, WAF. Make sure that you left click on WAF and that it is now in blue. If you do not do this, when you come to your Design tab, it will be blank. Bring in the floral _ 03 WAF design. While this design is now highlighted, I want to point out the selection controls that are an enhancement in this version of the software. What you will see here, every one of these little controls that's around that selection box controls something differently. This will rotate it. This will let you zoom in. These are just really nice features that streamline your workflow process in there. And what we're going to use is we're going to use this control that's in the lower left hand side of that box, and this is called the duplicate control. I'm going to left click on that one time, and I've just duplicated the design, and it's really nice in that it moves the design off of the top of the original so that you know you've got two designs there. I'm going to take those individual designs, and using that pattern in the backdrop, I'm going to start moving the designs so that I have a visual of how my project is going to look. Once I get those placed, now this is not the final placement, I'm going to duplicate the design again. So I'm going to click on the duplicate tool. I've got a third design. I'm going to move that third design, and I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. So I'm just going to, this is a visual process. And once I get it to the size that I want, I'm going to come up and I'm going to flip that. And then I'm going to duplicate the design one final time. I've now got 4 of those designs. Let's flip this one back. We're going to slide it down here. And at this point, I'm going to do a Alt S key to hide the backdrop. So that's Alt S to hide the backdrop. And I'm going to start lining up those designs. So I have my Control key down to select those 2 individual designs. I'm going to align them horizontally. I'm going to come back. I'm going to nudge this design, and I'm actually trying to, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. That's one click of my my mouse. And I want those 2 designs to just butt up against each other. Let's zoom to fit so that I can see my whole design. And I'm going to turn my backdrop back on. So this is a little large. Let's make that a little bit smaller to fit in the design. And this is at a lot of times when I'm working on a project, I'm very specific in the size of the designs. And so I will always use my transform tab to manipulate the designs and to make them larger or smaller. In this project, I'm actually using visual cues to do this. And I might even come back and make these designs a little bit larger. And I'm just looking at how is this filling up the space of that particular purse. I might even, and this is all entirely up to you. This is your project. You're going to create the design the way you would like it. I want to make sure that these designs are the same size. So before I finish up, I might even come over to my transform tab and make sure that I've got those identical. And I think the other was 3.16. Okay, apply that. And you'll continue to work with those designs, filling up the space of the bag until you're happy. Once you have your space filled up the way that you want it, you're pretty much done with this particular part of the process. So we're going to come up, we're going to do a file, we're going to choose a save. Now remember, this is what I was talking about when we were setting up the preferences. Do you see how under Save As Type, by setting that up ahead of time, I've already told the software this is my preferred machine format. When I get ready to save this, it will save it as an EXP file, and it will also save it as a WAF file. I'm going to name this base design and save that to my flash drive. Before we close the design and start work on our flowers, we also want to make sure that we print our finished design onto Template Tearaway. File, Print Preview. It's going to bring me up into my Print Preview settings in there. I'm going to come in under the Setting tab and just verify the settings in here. So we've got actual size, print on one page, showing the crosshair. I like to check the box as show as thick crosshair, stitch mode. Also, for those of you that are working on the machines that have the cameras built into them, you do have the ability now to select this Floriani CAT. So this is to help you with the placement of your design, and that's what that will do. And please be sure to watch the videos for more information on all of the various enhancements that came with this month's software. I'm going to go ahead and close. We're ready to work on the next part of our project. If you haven't done so, we want to make sure that we click on our piece of paper here for File New. We're going to click on Custom Shapes. This is going to bring you into your Custom Shapes library. And just so you know, I learned this from Marty Sandell, one of our Floriani educators. Click on the drop down, and not only do you have a library of custom shapes, you have an additional library called Easy Art. We're working in the Custom Shapes library with this project, and I want you to scroll down, and you actually have quite a few flowers to play with. Now you can use any of these. We're going to start with this flower right here. So it's just called plain old flower. Bring it in to your software. We're going to transform the size. I'm going to come over and I'm going to make this flower 3.5 inches. Click on Apply. We're going to come down on the Stitch Effects toolbar, which is down in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. Click on that, and we have now just turned this into stitches. So it's a single run stitch. We're going to update that single run stitch, and we're going to change it from a single run to a bean stitch. Select bean, and let's make it a 5 bean repeat so that it has more thread in our design, and click on Apply. Now we're going to move to put a circle in the center of our flower. I'm going to come up under my artwork. I'm going to choose the circle under the shapes. I'm going to hold my control key as I draw my circle. I'm going to release my mouse and release the control key. And now I've got a circle in the center of my flower. Once I have my circle there, I'm going to come down under my sequence view to select all items, and I'm going to align this. So I'm going to come up under my alignment tools. I'm going to align center, horizontal, center, vertical. I like to do that before I proceed to the next step. Now, we've got stitches right here. This is a run stitch, and this is artwork. We're going to take that artwork and we're going to convert that into a motif stitch. So once again, I'm going to use my Stitch Effects toolbar. I'm going to click on Run Motif, and that's going to bring it in with the default Run Motif stitch. We're going to update that motif, so click on the drop down, find F100. So I'm actually going to press the F key on my keyboard, and it takes me all the way down into the F's. And now I'm going to scroll down there in numerical order, and I'm going to find F100. There we go right there. And I'm going to select that and click on Apply. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the size of that, and I'm going to update. I'm going to leave the pattern size at 3, but I'm going to add some spacing between those individual stitches, and so it's pattern size 3, run spacing 2. And just so you know, my thinking in choosing this, and let me turn it on 3D. and zoom in a little bit. When I selected this run stitch, and you certainly can choose any motif stitch that you would like, but I thought, boy, wouldn't it be great if I drop a little crystal down in each one of those little areas. Let's start on our next part of the project. I'm going to open up a new document, and we're going to bring in a backdrop again. So I'm going to come over to my backdrop tool. I'm going to go up one level to this folder right here called flowers. And I've given you 3 separate flowers that you can play with. So feel free to be creative however you want. But we're going to use this flower number 2 for the next part of this project. I'm going to select it and open it. So this is a JPEG image. This is bringing it in as a backdrop. And we're going to resize this one. So if you'll see, this is actually at 16 inches. And I'll just mention to you how I found this particular flower. I did a Google search. I always search in Google. And I searched for coloring pages, flower coloring pages. And when you are looking for artwork, or when you're looking for images that you can work with in the software as a backdrop for digitizing, coloring book drawings work really, really well. And I'm not an artist, I don't draw myself, so I just find a coloring book drawing to work with. This one is 16 inches, and we're going to change that. So before I go any further, I'm going to change the size of that. I'm going to make it 4 inches in width and click on apply. I'm going to use my tool up here, and I'm going to zoom to fit so that I'm back in on this design. We're going to use this tool right here, and this tool is called the Redwork tool. We haven't used it before, and I've tried to use it in the past, but you have to have a good piece of artwork, not artwork, you have to have a good image to use the tool with, and you really need to find an image that has good clean lines. So this tool works perfectly on this project. We're going to zoom in, and we're going to find a nice black area, and you're going to click one time. And what that tool does is it reads the shape. If you see here now, and let's go ahead and just zoom to fit, the tool automatically read the whole outline of that flower, and now I have this, and it's actually stitches. Now that it's stitches, we're going to convert it into a steel stitch, which is actually just a satin stitch. So I come down under my auto tools, and I'm going to click on that one. So there I go. I've got this, and I've just turned it into a satin stitch, and I've turned it into a flower. There is a problem here though. When I stitch this out, do you see how close the stitches are right here? There's no gap in between there. I'm going to now adjust the outline, adjust the actual shape of this design, and open up that spacing in there. Let's hide our artwork first. So I'm Alt S so that I don't see my artwork. And I'm going to use my Stitch Edit tool right here. And once I select that, do you see now I've got, these are called anchor points. And any of those anchor points can be moved. So I can click on that anchor point and I can drag it to move it. When I have that anchor point selected, this is called a Bezier, and so by extending that or adjusting it, I can change the angle of that. I can move those physically. I can click on an anchor point and I can press my delete key and I can delete it. I could also right click anywhere on that line and I could add a point. So you've got a lot of different ways that you can manipulate this. But what we're going to do, and when I click off of that, do you see how now it's updated the stitches? And so as you're working with this tool and you're changing the shape, and I just did a quick undo redo on there, as you're changing the shape of this design, what we really want to do is we just want to bring in these, and I'm going to demonstrate on the first one here for you. I'm just going to delete that point. I'm going to move this one in. I'm going to move this one in. This looks a little wavy there, so I might come in and delete that point. I might add a point here because I do believe I deleted that one. And I'm going to click off of that just to kind of update it and see how it looks. Okay, so now I've got a nice open space in there, and I'm going to use my heat tool to cut this out. So I've got to be able to slide that heat tool down in between those floral areas in there. Now I'm going to go ahead and finish this out, and I'm going to speed up the video. Once you have your shape the way that you want it, we need to add a few more items to the flower. One of them is it needs to have that center part. So I'm going to go ahead and put a circle in the center of that flower and resize it. Once again, you don't have to be real exact with this. Once I've got it the size that I want it, that's also going to be a steel stitch. So I've got that there. I've got my flower. I might then come back in and do some additional adjustments. So what I'm looking at is I'm just trying to make the tip of the flowers and the circle in the center overlap. And we're going to now add some detail to the flowers. And so we're going to actually come in and do some stitching right in a V shape within each of those petals. Now I could come in and just digitize with my stitch tool, but I like to bring it in as artwork first and then convert it. So I'm going to click here, come down, click here, and come back up. And I'm right click to finish. I don't necessarily want these all to be the same size. Let me go to the next one. Down, down, up, right click. Okay, once you have those done, we're going to select all of those, and I'm just going to use my sequence view window over here to select those, and then I'm going to convert those into steel stitches. Once I've got that done, I do have to make some adjustments to the size here. So I'm going to bump those up. And I need to take the center here, and if you observe how this is going to stitch out, so this will be the outline of the flower shape, and then it does that circle, and then these V's will stitch on top of the circle. So I'm going to change that. All I need to do is grab that center section and move it, or I can right click on that and go move last. And then when you observe how that stitches out, here's the outline of the flower. Now it's going to come in and do my nice detailing in there and do the circle. You have two unique flowers that you have just created yourself. You want to make sure that you save those for stitching them out. So when you come into your file, save, remember it's going to save it automatically as a WAF file and also as your default machine format file. Save both of your flower designs for moving on to the next step. And now we're ready to go back to the PowerPoint and talk about how we're going to put this project together.
So we've completed the software component of the project. Make sure that you print your project handout. The handouts will really help you. They the software lesson is described within the handouts, and then also tips and tricks on how to put this project together. Now, this month's project is a little bit different in that I used this pattern, and so it's this pink sand beach designs modern clutch pattern, and you're going to follow the directions. So realistically, I created the fabric, I created the flowers, but I followed the directions that are given for putting the project together. So pinksandbeachdesigns.com. It's a great pattern. It's very well written, and it comes with the hardware. And so when I talk about the hardware, that's the actual hardware that keeps the purse closed. Your handout is located, and I always like to tell people that I actually work with a group of Floriani software users here in Colorado where I live. They didn't know that the handout for the projects or the free designs were given to them every month. So I always try to make sure that I point this out. You have the handout. It is downloaded with your free project. It is located in your C drive. Open up your Floriani folder under Designs, Free FTCU Projects, April of 2017. Now we're ready for construction tips. Embroidering the 3D flowers. This is actually fairly simple. The key is we're using a sheer organza, and you can, there's polyester or there's nylon. I recommend nylon, and it just has to do with how that fabric reacts to the heat tool. You need 2 pieces larger than the hoop, and you need 1 piece of your shrink fabric larger than the hoop, cut the same size as the organza. Layer them together, create a sandwich. So it's a layer of organza, your shrink fabric is in the middle, and another layer of organza on top. No stabilizer, hoop those 3 layers of fabric. Just place them into your hoop, go over and embroider the flowers right on there. You don't have to worry about stabilizer, keeps your fabric from puckering, and we don't have to worry about puckering because we want these to pucker. So, and stabilizer will inhibit the process of what I call blooming the flowers. Embroider as many flowers as you can onto that piece of organza. And so I saved each of my flower designs individually, and at my hoop I just kept adding a flower, and it's like, oh, I moved it, and if I had room I added another flower and another flower. And this is we didn't go through the process of making this one. We made this flower, and then we made this flower in our software. So that's why I said you can make any flower that you want. Embroider as many flowers as you can fit into the hoop. When you're done, remove the hoop and leave the fabric in the hoop. The hoop will hold the fabric taut while you embellish it. And these are hot fix crystals. These are hot fix crystals, the pearls. And then these are the square Swarovski embellishments. This is what they look like. You can order them through your Floriani dealer. Your dealer can order these through RNK Distributing. This is the cordless hot fix crystal tool. This tool is made specifically for working with these hot fix crystals. So what it is that, notice there's no cord. It's battery operated. So you put batteries in there. When you press this button, the tip immediately heats up. The way that hot fix crystals work is that there is a glue on the back of the crystal. When you apply heat to the glass front, the heat transfers through the glass to the back of the crystal, and it melts the glue, and then the glue adheres to the fabric below it. These crystals are so much fun to use, and you'll see they come in all different shapes and sizes and colors. So you're leaving that fabric in the hoop. I'm going to go ahead and I did all of my embellishment in there. And you can add it afterwards, but like I said, it keeps it nice and taut. Once you have that embellished, then we're going to use our Floriani heat craft tool. And so this is not cordless. It has a cord on it, You plug it in, it heats up, and it gets really, really hot. But what we're going to do is we're just going to run that tool right around the edge of the flower, as you'll see here, and it cuts away that organza cleanly. It cuts through the organza and it cuts through the shrinked fabric. This is polyester thread, and polyester thread, if you touch the tip of that to the polyester thread, it will melt. Ask me how I know. So this is just a little tip. Take a Q-tip and some water, dampen the thread before you cut out the flower. It's not going to affect anything, but it'll kind of keep that thread. If you get a little loosey-goosey and touch that, it'll keep you from damaging things. So you can do that ahead of time. Cut the flowers out, and then we're going to bloom the flowers. I didn't know what else to call it other than we're going to make them bloom. So currently the flowers are flat. You're not going to press these. You're going to use steam. I found that steam works the best. And so this is a wool pressing pad. I lay my flowers down on there. I take my iron, I hold it over the top of the flowers. I press the steam button and steam these. And then once they're steamed, they kind of, that fabric shrinks up in there, and that's how you get this really fun textural element. And then to make the flower, you can use either one layer or two. So I actually took 2 flowers and put them on top of each other. As far as embroidering the fabric for the clutch, you're going to make sure that you apply Dreamweave Ultra to your fabric before you embroider it. My bag was Silk du Peony, so I put the Dreamweave Ultra on the back of the Silk du Peony. I also use the Dreamweave Ultra on the fabric for the lining. I put it on both of those. It doesn't change the hand of it, but it really keeps that fabric looking crisp and soft and beautiful. Make a pattern. This is just something that I recommend. This is some vellum paper, and I trace that onto the vellum paper. It helps to place the embroidery. So here's my fabric. This is my, it calls for a fat quarter of Silk du Peony. She gives you the dimensions to cut, and I believe it's 12 inches by 13 inches or something. I cut this a little big. I fused my Dreamweave Ultra to it, and I laid that pattern on top. I did the center in here, and then I took a friction pen and I marked around the edge of the patterns, because this is what's going to essentially be the part of the clutch that you can see. And I marked the center vertically and horizontally with my friction pen, and I just a dash down there and a dash there. I've got my design printed onto template tearaway. I'm going to use those markings on the template tearaway to line the design up. So here's the halfway. This is the bottom of the bag. Here's my embroidery design. So this is going to wrap around the bottom of it, and it's lined up in the center there. Once I have the template tearaway placed, then I hoop a piece of Floriani Perfect Stick tearaway stabilizer. I lay my fabric down, and I did use my clear grid that goes along with my embroidery hoop. I laid my grid over the top, and that helped to, it helped me facilitate the centering of that design in the hoop. It's not exact, so when I got it over to my embroidery machine, I went into my settings and went to the center of the embroidery design. When I click on that center location, I'm going to move the hoop until my needle drops directly in the center of that intersection. Remove the template tearaway before you embroider the design, and then embroider the design out. This technique works really, really well. Once you have this first half of the design embroidered, you're going to remove it and remove as much stabilizer as you possibly can. Now, this was the first initial removal of the stabilizer, and you can see how it's kind of showing through. Before I put the bag together, I did go back and spent an hour or so picking away the remainders of the stabilizer so that I didn't have that shadow showing through there. So this is the first half of the bag embroidered. Now I'm going to place my template tearaway on the top, line it up again and embroider the other half of the bag. So when I got done, I have this beautiful embroidery that shows on either side of the bag. And on one side of the bag, I have the flowers, and on the other side of the bag, I have this beautiful embroidery. I laid my pattern on here, and I just followed the directions exactly as she said in the pattern. So, and her directions are very well written. When you get done, make sure that I'd love to see these. We at Floriani, R&K Distributing, we love to see your work. If you post it onto Facebook, we do have a Floriani Embroidery Facebook group. You can post it up there. If you're posting it on Instagram, hashtag April Project, hashtag Floriani Embroidery. And Instagram, if you add at Casey Ferrel, then I'll get a copy of that when you post it. Same thing applies for Twitter. So if you have any questions about the project, please email me. I always give my email for this. I understand. I try to be very thorough in my instructions, but I realize that I may talk about things that you may not know. So feel free to ask me questions about the project. My email is kathyf@rnkdistributing.com. So these are questions about this project. And just as dangling a little carrot for you, in May, we're going to be working on a project. We're going to be working with text, with lettering, with creating some lettering. And we're going to use a design from the collection called You Design It, Sweet Blossoms. So you may want to purchase this collection before next month, and then when we get ready to do the project, you have all of the choices in that collection of designs to work with. Until next month, this is Kathy Ferrel. I want to thank you and have a great month.